The Morning Chorus. Chapter 1. An Unusual Alarm Clock. I've never been what you'd call a morning person. Even after 73 years on this earth, I still grumble my way through the first hour of consciousness, like a hibernating bear who's been poked with a stick. But Reginald, my grey parrot, has other ideas about how my mornings should begin. Albert. Tea time, dear. Don't let it go cold. The voice drifts through my bedroom door at precisely 6:47 a.m., as it has every morning for the past 3 years. Reginald's timing is impeccable, I'll give him that. Better than any alarm clock I've ever owned, and considerably more judgmental. I pull myself upright, my joints creaking in harmony like an old ship's rigging, and shuffle into my slippers. The morning light filters through the lace curtains. Rose's curtains, though I've stopped correcting myself on that point. Everything in this house is still Rose's something or other. Rose's garden. Rose's good china. Rose's spot on the sofa where the cushion still bears the permanent impression of her slight frame. Coming. I mutter, though Reginald doesn't actually expect a response. He's moved on to his next proclamation. Lovely morning. Don't forget your coat, love. There's a chill. I pause at the bedroom door and glance out the window. It's August. There's about as much chill in the air as there is common sense in a game show contestant. But that's Reginald for you. Seasonally confused and utterly confident about it. The parrot is perched in his cage in the corner of the living room, his grey feathers immaculate, his beady black eyes fixed on me with what I can only describe as maternal concern. He tilts his head as I enter. There you are, he says, and I swear there's relief in that mechanical voice. I was getting worried. You've been awake for 10 minutes, I tell him. Still, he says, which isn't actually something he says. I've started having full conversations with a bird. This is what my life has come to. I shuffle into the kitchen and put the kettle on. The ritual is the same every morning. 2 spoonfuls of Earl Grey in the pot, 3 minutes to steep, 1 cup with a splash of milk and half a sugar. Rose always said I took my tea like a coward. Barely any flavor at all. But she'd make it for me anyway, exactly how I liked it, and she'd bring it to me with a little plate of biscuits arranged just so. Now I make it myself, and the biscuits come straight from the packet. Don't forget to eat properly. Reginald calls from the living room. You're looking thin. I'm not looking thin. If anything, I've developed what my doctor diplomatically calls a prosperous middle. But I appreciate the concern, even if it comes from a creature with a brain the size of a walnut. I carry my tea back to the living room and settle into my chair. Not Rose's spot, never Rose's spot. And Reginald cocks his head at me again. Better? He asks. Much better, I say. And for just a moment, with the morning sun streaming through the windows and the sound of that familiar voice in the air, it almost feels like she's still here. Chapter 2. The neighbors take notice. Mrs. Pemberton from next door is the first to comment on Reginald's peculiar vocabulary. She's standing at my front door with a Tupperware container of what she claims are rock cakes, though I suspect they could actually be used in geological surveys. Mrs. Pemberton is a widow herself, has been for nearly a decade, and she's taken it upon herself to ensure I don't starve to death or die of loneliness. The fact that her cooking might accomplish the former doesn't seem to concern her. I heard the most extraordinary thing this morning, Albert, she says, not waiting for an invitation before stepping into my hallway. Mrs. Pemberton doesn't believe in waiting for invitations. She believes in what she calls being neighborly, which mostly involves inserting herself into my daily routine at irregular intervals. Did you? I take the container from her hands. The cakes inside look like they could survive a nuclear winter. That's lovely, that is. Your parrot, she continues, craning her neck to peer into the living room, where Reginald is preening his wing feathers with scholarly attention. I was hanging out my washing, and I heard him clear as day. Sounded just like a woman's voice, it did. "He's a parrot," I say mildly. "That's rather what they do." "Yes," said Albert. She leans in conspiratorially, as if we're discussing matters of national security. He said, "Don't forget your cardigan, dear. You know how you feel the cold." Now, who taught him that? I feel a small pang in my chest, the kind that's become familiar over the past few years. Like a stitch that never quite heals. "Just picked it up," I say with a shrug. "He's clever, that one." Clever indeed. Mrs. Pemberton isn't satisfied, I can tell. She's got that look she gets when she's working up to something, like a detective who's spotted a crucial clue. It reminded me of. Well, never mind. I'm sure it's nothing. But it isn't nothing, and we both know it. "Tell Mrs. Pemberton thank you," Reginald calls from the living room. "And ask if she's keeping well." Mrs. Pemberton's eyes go wide as dinner plates. Good Lord! How did he, like I said? I interrupt quickly. Very clever bird. She leaves shortly after, casting suspicious glances back at Reginald, who has now moved on to whistling what sounds remarkably like the tune Rose used to hum while doing the washing up. I didn't teach him that. I couldn't carry a tune if it had handles. After Mrs. Pemberton departs, I sit down heavily in my chair. "You're going to get us in trouble," I tell Reginald. "Don't be silly," he replies. "Everything's fine." And that's the problem, isn't it? He sounds so much like her that sometimes I turn around expecting to see Rose standing there, a tea towel over her shoulder and that little smile on her face. The smile that said she knew exactly what I was thinking and found it amusing. Chapter 3. The Theory of Young Marcus. The second person to take serious interest in Reginald is young Marcus from 3 doors down. I say young Marcus though he's got to be pushing 40 by now. But when you're my age, everyone under 50 is young, and Marcus has that eternal puppy dog quality that makes him seem even younger than he is. Marcus is what Rose would have called a bit eccentric. He works from home doing something with computers that I don't understand and don't particularly want to understand, and he has a collection of what he calls rescue animals that includes 2 cats, a rabbit with 3 legs, and a tortoise named Winston who occasionally escapes and terrorizes the local lettuce patches. He arrives on a Tuesday morning, which I know because Tuesday is bin day, and I can see the wheelie bins lined up along the street like soldiers awaiting inspection. "Mr. Blackwood." Marcus bounces up my front path with characteristic enthusiasm. He's wearing a t-shirt with what appears to be a cat dressed as a hot dog. I don't ask. "I've been hearing the most fascinating things about your parrot." "Have you now?" I say, already resigned to this conversation. "Mrs. Pemberton mentioned him at the bus stop. Said he speaks in complete sentences. In different voices." "He's a parrot," I repeat, which is becoming my standard response. "They imitate sounds." "Yes, but..." Marcus's eyes light up with the fervor of a man who's stumbled upon a mystery. "I've been reading about African greys. They're incredibly intelligent. Some researchers believe they have the cognitive ability of a 5-year-old human child. They can understand context, emotion, even abstract concepts." "That's very interesting, Marcus. Could I possibly meet him? Just for a moment?" I consider refusing, but Marcus has that hopeful expression that reminds me of Rose when she wanted something. She'd look at me like that when she was angling for a weekend trip to the seaside, or permission to adopt yet another stray cat. I could never say no. "Come on then," I sigh, stepping aside. Marcus practically vibrates with excitement as he enters the living room. Reginald, for his part, Regards this new visitor with the regal disdain of a monarch receiving a particularly scruffy subject. Hello there, beautiful bird. Marcus coos. Reginald says nothing. He simply stares. He doesn't perform on command, I say, settling into my chair. He'll speak when he's ready. We wait. Marcus perches on the edge of the sofa. Rose's sofa, damn it. And watches Reginald with rapt attention. The silence stretches out. I'm just beginning to think this will be a wasted visit when Reginald finally speaks. You look tired, love. Are you sleeping properly? Marcus gasps. That was the tone, the inflection. Mr. Blackwood, who taught him to say that? No one taught him, I say quietly. He just knows things. But it sounded so natural. So full of genuine concern. Marcus leans forward. If I didn't know better, I'd say that bird actually cares about you. Maybe he does, I say. Reginald fluffs his feathers and shifts on his perch. Have you eaten today, Albert? You need to keep your strength up. Marcus looks at me with something approaching wonder. This is extraordinary. The way he speaks to you. It's almost like. He stops himself, but I know what he was going to say. It's almost like someone who loves you. Chapter 4. The Sunday Afternoon Inquisition. By the following Sunday, word has spread. My quiet existence with Reginald has somehow become the talk of the neighborhood, which is both mortifying and oddly touching. People actually care enough to be curious, even if their curiosity is occasionally annoying. The doorbell rings at 2 p.m., just as I'm settling in for the football match. I open it to find not one but four of my neighbors standing on the doorstep. Mrs. Pemberton, young Marcus, the Johnsons from across the street. A couple in their 50s who mostly keep to themselves. And old Tom Weatherby, who's even older than I am and usually communicates primarily in grunts. Intervention? I ask. Social visit. Mrs. Pemberton corrects firmly, already pushing past me. The others follow like ducklings. Within minutes, my living room is full of people I normally only wave to over garden fences. Mrs. Pemberton has produced a thermos of tea from her enormous handbag. The Johnsons have brought biscuits. Proper ones, thank God, not Mrs. Pemberton's geological specimens. Marcus is already chattering away about Parrot intelligence, and Tom Weatherby has claimed my favorite chair, the traitor. Reginald surveys this invasion with what I can only describe as satisfaction. Visitors, he announces. How lovely. I'll put the kettle on. Everyone goes quiet. Then Janet Johnson laughs, a bright sound that fills the room. Oh, he's marvelous. Does he always talk like that? Constantly. I mutter. Can't get a moment's peace. Don't be grumpy. Reginald chides. Company is good for you. This gets another laugh. I'm starting to feel like a curator at a particularly popular zoo exhibit. The thing is, David Johnson says, leaning forward. We've all heard him through the windows at various times. And, well, he glances at his wife, who nods encouragingly. The things he says. They're so specific. So personal. Like someone who really knows you. Janet adds softly. The room has gone quiet again, but this time it's different. It's not the silence of curiosity but of understanding. Or the beginning of it, anyway. Mrs. Pemberton clears her throat. Albert, dear. We're not trying to pry. But that bird of yours. He sounds an awful lot like someone who cared about you very much. Marcus finishes gently. I look at Reginald, who's watching me with those dark, intelligent eyes. Then I look at my neighbors, these people I've kept at arm's length for 3 years, because letting them in means admitting that Rose is really gone and I'm here alone. Except I'm not alone, Am I? Not with Reginald. And not, apparently, with this odd collection of people crowding into my living room on a Sunday afternoon. He sounds like my Rose, I say finally. The words come out rough, catching in my throat. My wife. She used to say those things. All of those things. No one speaks for a moment. Then Tom Weatherby, of all people, says in his gravelly voice, "She sounds like she was lovely." She was, I say. She really was. Chapter 5. The story begins to unfold. After my admission, the atmosphere shifts. It's as if I've opened a door I'd been keeping firmly locked, and now everyone wants to step through and have a proper look around. Mrs. Pemberton, naturally, is the most direct. How did he learn to speak like her? She asks, perched on Rose's sofa with her teacup balanced on her knee. Did you train him? Not exactly, I say. Rose and I got Reginald about 5 years ago. Found him at a rescue center. His previous owner had passed away, and the family couldn't keep him. Rose fell in love with him immediately. She always did have a soft spot for strays. I continue, smiling at the memory. She spent hours with him every day. Talked to him while she cooked, while she read the paper, while she did her crosswords. He was her constant companion. Reginald bobs his head. Keep me company, won't you? I do hate being alone. The words hit me like a physical thing. That's what Rose said the day we brought him home, speaking directly to the parrot as if he could understand every word. And perhaps he could. She got ill about 3 years ago. I say, the words coming easier now that I've started. Cancer. Moved fast. In the last few months, she couldn't do much except sit in her chair. I gesture to the spot no one has dared to occupy. And talk to Reginald. I'd be running around trying to manage everything, and she'd just talk to him. About the weather, about what to have for dinner, about the garden. About you, Marcus says softly. Yeah, I admit. About me. All those little reminders. The coat, the tea, eating properly. She worried I'd fall apart without her there to nag me. And did you? Janet asks, not unkindly. Nearly, I say. Those first few months after she was gone, I barely remembered to feed myself, let alone anything else. But then Reginald started talking. Really talking, I mean, not just random words. He'd say the things Rose used to say, in the order she used to say them. Tea time, dear. Don't forget your coat. Are you sleeping properly? I have to stop for a moment, surprised by the emotion clogging my throat. It was like having a piece of her still here. I manage. This tiny, feathered piece that made the house feel less empty. That's beautiful, Janet says, and I notice her eyes are damp. It's bloody brilliant, is what it is. Tom Weatherby announces. Clever bird. Clever woman, too, teaching him all that. She'd have loved knowing he remembered, I say. She used to joke that he was paying more attention to her than I did. Nonsense. Reginald says clearly. You always listened, love. You always did. The room goes completely still. I stare at the parrot. He's never said that before. I whisper. Marcus leans forward. Do you think he understands? Really understands what he's saying? I don't know. I admit. Sometimes I think he's just repeating sounds. Other times. I shake my head. Other times I think Rose somehow taught him more than just words. She taught him how to care. Chapter 6. The morning ritual explained. After that Sunday afternoon, everything changes. My neighbors stop treating me like the slightly tragic widower who keeps to himself and start treating me like, well, a neighbor. Mrs. Pemberton still brings her terrifying rock cakes, but now she stays for a cup of tea and a chat with Reginald, who has taken to complimenting her hair. Something Rose used to do. Marcus pops round with articles about Parrot intelligence, most of which I don't read but appreciate nonetheless. The Johnsons invite me for Sunday roast once a month. But the most unexpected development comes from Tom Weatherby. He starts showing up every morning at 7:15, just after Reginald has completed his wake-up routine with me. Tom has lost his wife too. Nearly 12 years ago now. And he says hearing Reginald reminds him that the love doesn't just disappear when someone dies. It changes form, maybe, but it doesn't vanish. We sit together in my living room, two old men and a parrot, drinking tea and talking about everything and nothing. Tom tells me about his Agnes, who used to leave him notes around the house reminding him of things. After she died, he kept finding them. In coat pockets, between book pages, tucked into the tea caddy. Little messages from beyond, he calls them. That's what your Reginald is, he says one morning. A living, breathing message from Rose. A very loud message, I say, as Reginald launches into a spirited rendition of Rose's favorite hymn. Tom chuckles. The best kinds are. One morning, as Tom and I are sitting there, Marcus appears at the door with a video camera. Absolutely not, I say immediately. Hear me out. Marcus pleads. This is important, Mr. Blackwood. Reginald is preserving something precious. Not just for you, but as a record of how animals can connect with us, how they can learn and remember and, in their way, love. This could help other people who've lost someone. It could show them they're not alone. I want to refuse. The thought of broadcasting my grief, my strange little household, to the world makes my stomach clench. But then I look at Reginald, who's watching this exchange with interest, and I think about Rose. She'd have loved the attention, truth be told. She'd have preened and fussed over her feathered friend and made sure he looked his best for the camera. And she'd have wanted to help people if she could. One video, I say firmly. Just one. And if I don't like how it turns out, we destroy it. Deal? Deal. Marcus is already setting up his equipment. The resulting video is, I have to admit, rather charming. Marcus films a typical morning. Reginald calling out his wake-up greeting, me shuffling into the kitchen for tea, the parrot following up with his various reminders and observations. Marcus even gets the moment when Reginald says, I love you, Albert, don't forget that. Which Rose used to say every single morning, without fail. I hadn't realized Reginald had learned that one. It nearly breaks me on camera. Chapter 7. Going viral. Whatever that means. Marcus posts the video on something called YouTube, which apparently is where people watch videos of cats falling off things and babies laughing. I don't have a computer myself. Rose used to handle all that. So I don't think much of it until Marcus shows up 3 days later, practically vibrating with excitement. Mr. Blackwood. You've gone viral. I've gone what? Should I see a doctor? No. Viral. On the internet. The video has over 1 million views. I stare at him. 1 million. That's more people than live in several small countries combined. That can't be right, I say. But it is right. Apparently, the world has fallen in love with Reginald and his morning routine. People from all over. America, Australia, Japan, places I can barely pronounce, are leaving comments about how the video made them cry, how it reminded them of someone they'd lost, how beautiful it is that love can persist in such unexpected ways. They're calling Reginald the messenger of love, Marcus says, showing me comment after comment on his phone. Look at this one. This bird is speaking with the voice of an angel. And this one. I lost my grandmother last year and this is exactly how she used to talk to my grandfather. I'm sobbing. I feel overwhelmed. Exposed. But also, strangely, proud. Proud of Reginald for being so remarkable. Proud of Rose for leaving such a legacy. Even proud of myself for letting people see this strange, beautiful thing that's happened in my little house. Well, I say, clearing my throat. That's something, isn't it? The attention doesn't stop. A local news station wants to interview me. A newspaper sends a reporter. Someone starts a social media account for Reginald. Marcus handles this, thank God, where he posts daily updates and photos. The account gets thousands of followers within a week. My quiet life has become decidedly unquiet. But here's the odd thing. I don't hate it. Because every person who reaches out, every message and comment and share, they're all saying the same thing. They're saying that love matters. That the small, daily kindnesses we show each other aren't forgotten. That a wife taking care of her husband, reminding him to eat and dress warmly and rest properly. That isn't nothing. That's everything. Rose's love, expressed through a great parrot with impeccable timing, has touched people she'll never meet, in places she'll never go. She'd have liked that very much. Chapter 8. The Interview. The reporter from the TV station arrives on a cloudy Thursday morning. She's a young woman named Sarah, perhaps 30, with kind eyes and a gentle manner that immediately puts me at ease. She's also brought a cameraman named Pete, who sets up equipment in my living room while trying not to knock over Rose's collection of porcelain birds on the mantelpiece. Reginald is in fine form. He's been preening himself all morning, as if he knows he's about to be on television. I suspect Marcus may have tipped him off. Mr. Blackwood, Sarah begins, once we're settled and the camera is rolling. Thank you for agreeing to speak with us. Your story with Reginald has captured hearts around the world. Has it? Well, he's a special bird, no question. Tell us about your wife, Rose. What was she like? I wasn't expecting that question to come so early, and for a moment I'm caught off guard. But then I look at Rose's chair, still sitting empty by the window, and the words come. She was practical, I say. That's the word people always used. Practical Rose. But practical doesn't mean unromantic, you see. She showed her love in practical ways. Making sure I ate properly. Reminding me to take my coat. Asking if I was sleeping well. All the little things that say, I care about you. I'm paying attention. Your well-being matters to me. Keep talking, Reginald says suddenly. I'm listening. Sarah smiles. He does that often. All the time. Never quite learned the art of appropriate interruption. I glance at the parrot affectionately. But yes, Rose spent hours with him. She'd talk about her day, about things she was worried about memories from when we were young. He soaked it all up like a little grey sponge. And after she passed, I thought the house would be unbearable. Too full of her absence, if that makes sense. But then Reginald started talking, and suddenly it wasn't empty anymore. It was like she'd left behind a piece of herself. Not a sad, ghostly piece, but something lively and warm. Something that kept the house feeling like a home. Sarah leans forward. Some people might say it's just a bird repeating sounds. What would you say to them? I consider this. I'd say they're probably right, in a way. Reginald is mimicking sounds he learned. But here's the thing. Rose chose those sounds. She chose to fill her last months with words of love and care. She chose to teach him the things that mattered most to her. So yes, he's repeating sounds. But they're the right sounds. The important sounds. The loving sounds. Sarah adds softly. Exactly. Reginald chooses this moment to speak again. Don't forget to smile, Albert. You have a lovely smile. I do smile then, I can't help it. She used to say that when I was being grumpy. Said I had a lovely smile, and it was a shame to waste it on frowning. She sounds wonderful. She was. I looked directly at the camera, suddenly wanting everyone watching to understand. And that's what I want people to know. It's not about the bird, not really. It's about taking the time to show people you love them while you can. It's about the little daily kindnesses that seem so small but add up to everything. Rose taught me that. Reginald just helps me remember. Chapter 9. The Letters. After the interview airs, something unexpected happens. Letters start arriving. Dozens of them at first, then hundreds. They come from all over the UK, from Europe, from America, from countries I have to look up on a map. Mrs. Pemberton helps me organize them. She's taken on the role of unofficial secretary, sorting the letters into categories. People who've lost someone, people who have parrots, people who just want to say thank you. I read every single one. A woman from Scotland writes about her husband, who died suddenly 5 years ago. She says watching Reginald reminded her that she doesn't have to let go of the love. Just find new ways to hold on to it. A man from Texas tells me about his grandfather, who used to leave him voice messages every morning. After the grandfather died, he couldn't bring himself to delete them. Now he listens to one every morning, and it feels, he says, like Reginald's routine with me. A little girl from Wales draws me a picture of Reginald with a heart over his head. Her note, written in careful block letters, says, "Your bird is magic. My mum says love is magic too." I cry over that one. Tom Weatherby, who's there when I open it, pretends not to notice. But the letter that affects me most comes from a woman in London. Her name is Dorothy, and she's 82. She writes, "Dear Mr. Blackwood, I watched your interview last night and I've been crying ever since. Not sad tears. Good tears, if that makes sense. I lost my Harold 3 years ago, and I thought the grief would destroy me. I got rid of almost everything that reminded me of him because it hurt too much to see his things around the house. But watching you with Reginald, hearing how you've held on to Rose's love instead of pushing it away, made me realize I've made a mistake. I thought I had to let go completely to survive the pain. But you've shown me that keeping love alive, in whatever form it takes, is what actually heals us. Tomorrow I'm going to the storage unit where I put Harold's belongings. I'm going to bring them home. I'm going to surround myself with the reminders of our life together. And I'm going to be grateful for every single one. Thank you for teaching an old woman that it's never too late to choose love over fear. With deepest gratitude, Dorothy." I read that letter 3 times. Then I fold it carefully and put it in my pocket, where it stays for the rest of the day. "Are you all right?" Reginald asks that evening, as I sit in my chair staring at nothing in particular. "Yes," I say. "Yes, I think I really am." Chapter 10. The Gift. 6 months after Marcus's video first goes viral, something miraculous happens. A package arrives from a woman in America. A scientist named Dr. Patricia Chen who specializes in animal behavior. Inside is a device she's invented. A small recorder that can capture and store sounds, then play them back at scheduled times. Her letter explains, "I was inspired by Reginald's story to create this for people who are losing someone but want to preserve their voice. Your wife Rose did this naturally, teaching Reginald her words of love. This device allows others to do something similar. It can be programmed with messages from a loved one. Reminders, encouragement, words of affection. And we'll play them at specific times each day. A different kind of morning chorus, perhaps." She's calling it, the Rose Project. I'm sitting in my living room with a device in my hands, trying to process what this means, when Marcus and Mrs. Pemberton arrive for our now regular Thursday tea. "What's that?" Marcus asks. I show them the letter, the device. Mrs. Pemberton reads it twice, then dabs at her eyes with a tissue. Oh, Albert. Rose would be over the moon. It's because of Reginald, I say. Because of what Rose taught him. And now other people will be able to keep those voices alive. It's extraordinary, Marcus says, examining the device. Do you think it really works? Only one way to find out, says Tom Weatherby, who's appeared in the doorway. I swear the man has a sixth sense for when something interesting is happening. Test it. So we do. Marcus programs it with a message in his own voice. Time for tea and biscuits. Then we set it to play in 5 minutes. We wait, all of us gathered in my living room, staring at this small device as if it's about to perform actual magic. Reginald watches from his perch, head cocked, curious. Exactly 5 minutes later, the device speaks in Marcus's voice. Time for tea and biscuits. Reginald immediately responds. Lovely. Don't forget the good china. We all burst out laughing. Even Tom Weatherby, who I've never heard laugh before, lets out a great booming chuckle. Well, I say, still grinning. I think it works. Chapter 11. 1 year later. A year after that first video, my life has settled into a new kind of normal. I'm still in my little house with Rose's things all around me. Reginald still wakes me up every morning with his routine of gentle reminders. Tom still shows up for tea most days, and Mrs. Pemberton still brings her inedible rock cakes, which I've started donating to the local school's erosion experiment. They're perfect for demonstrating the effects of weathering on hard surfaces. But now there's more. There are letters still arriving, though fewer than before. There are occasional interviews, though I've learned to say no to most of them. There's a small sign on my front gate that people sometimes photograph. Reginald's house. I let Marcus put it up because it made him so happy. And there's the Rose Project. Dr. Chen's device is now being manufactured and sold, with all proceeds going to hospice care. Thousands of people have bought them. They're recording their loved ones' voices, their messages, their daily reminders of love. They're creating their own morning choruses. I get emails sometimes. Yes, Marcus taught me how to use email, God help us all. From people who've used the device. They thank me, which feels strange because I didn't do anything except love my wife and keep a parrot. But I suppose that's the point, isn't it? Sometimes the smallest, most ordinary acts of love are the ones that matter most. On the anniversary of Rose's death, I wake to Reginald's usual greeting. Albert. Tea time, dear. Don't let it go cold. But today there's something else. As I shuffle into the living room, Reginald fixes me with those dark eyes and says, in Rose's voice. Rose's exact voice, soft and warm and unmistakably hers. Happy anniversary, my love. Thank you for remembering me. Thank you for keeping me close. Thank you for showing the world that love doesn't end. I stand frozen in the middle of my living room, tears streaming down my face. She never taught you that. I whisper. Reginald tilts his head. Are you sure? And the truth is, I'm not sure. Maybe she did, in those last few days when I was too overwhelmed to pay attention. Maybe Reginald saved it for the right moment. Or maybe, and I know this sounds mad, maybe Rose found a way to send me one last message through our clever grey parrot. I don't know. I'll never know. But I do know this. I'm not alone. I'll never be alone. Not with Reginald here, speaking his morning chorus of love. Not with my neighbors who've become friends. Not with the thousands of people around the world who understand that love is the thing that persists, that endures, that matters. I love you too, Rose. I say to the empty room that isn't really empty at all. I'll never forget. Good. Says Reginald. Now go make some tea. You know how you get grumpy without your tea. I laugh through my tears and head to the kitchen. Behind me, Reginald begins to whistle Rose's favorite tune, and I swear I can hear her humming along. Epilogue. The morning chorus continues. They ask me sometimes, the reporters and the curious neighbors and the people who write letters, if I think Reginald understands what he's saying. If he knows he's keeping Rose's memory alive. I always give them the same answer. Does it matter? Because whether Reginald is just a clever bird repeating sounds or something more. Something that carries a spark of Rose's love forward into each new day. The effect is the same. He reminds me to live. To eat properly and dress warmly and take care of myself. To smile more and be kind and let people in. He reminds me that I was loved completely by someone extraordinary, and that love doesn't just disappear when someone dies. It transforms. It finds new expressions, new voices, new ways of saying, I'm still here. I still care. You're not alone. This morning, like every morning, I wake to Reginald's call. Albert. Tea time, dear. Don't let it go cold. And like every morning, I smile. Coming, love. I say. From the living room, in a voice that sounds so much like Rose it makes my heart ache with joy, Reginald replies. That's my good man. Now remember. It's going to be a beautiful day. And you know what? He's absolutely right.